The air was thick with tension in Salem as Sarah Horton made her way to Xander Cook's dimly lit apartment. The shadows of their tumultuous past loomed over her, but Sarah's resolve was unwavering. She had a mission, to convince the man she once loved that redemption was still within his grasp. Xander, as always, was his own worst enemy. But Sarah believed in second chances, even if it meant taking a risk that could shatter her heart all over again. Xander, brooding and shirtless, opened the door with a reluctant scowl. His chiseled features were hardened by months of regret and self-loathing. "Sarah," he muttered, barely meeting her gaze. "What are you doing here?" Sarah stepped inside, ignoring the staleness of the air and the chaos of empty whiskey bottles scattered across the room. "I came because I know you're better than this," she said, her voice steady but tinged with emotion. "You've made mistakes, Xander, but that doesn't mean you're beyond saving." Xander scoffed, running a hand through his unruly hair. "Save the pep talk. You and I both know I'm nothing but a screw-up. Always have been, always will be." "That's not true." Sarah shot back, her fiery determination piercing through his cynicism. "You've done terrible things, yes, but I've also seen the good in you. The man who risked everything to protect me and my daughter, the man who once made me believe in love." Her words hung in the air, a stark reminder of what they'd lost and what could still be salvaged. Xander's facade cracked, and for a moment, his vulnerability peeked through. "Why are you really here, Sarah?" he asked, his voice quieter now. "You think you can just waltz back into my life and fix everything with a few kind words?" Sarah took a deep breath, steadying herself. "I'm here because I believe in you, even if you don't believe in yourself. And because I know that deep down, you're still fighting to be the man you want to be." Xander's eyes glistened with unshed tears, but he quickly turned away, unwilling to let her see him break. He wanted to believe her, but the weight of his past sins was too heavy to ignore. Meanwhile, across town, Belle Brady was working tirelessly in her office. The recent chaos in Salem had left her with little time for herself, but she was determined to bring justice to those who thought they could operate above the law, Xander Cook being one of them. Belle had always been a fierce advocate for truth and fairness, but this time, her pursuit felt personal. Philip Kyriakis had confided in Belle about his suspicions regarding Xander's recent activities. Despite his attempts to stay on the straight and narrow, Xander always seemed to find his way back into the gray areas of morality. Belle, ever the strategist, began to devise a plan that would not only expose Xander's wrongdoing but also put an end to his cycle of manipulation once and for all. "Are you sure about this?" Philip asked, pacing her office nervously. "Xander's unpredictable. This could blow up in our faces." Belle leaned back in her chair, a confident smirk playing on her lips. "Trust me, Philip. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that people like Xander always fall into their own traps. All we have to do is give him a little nudge." Philip nodded, though his unease was palpable. He knew better than anyone the lengths Xander would go to protect himself. But Belle's plan was already in motion, and there was no turning back now. Back at Xander's apartment, Sarah's persistence was starting to wear him down. She had a way of getting under his skin, of making him feel things he tried to bury deep inside. "You really think I can just change?" Xander asked, his voice laced with skepticism. "That I can undo all the damage I've done?" Sarah stepped closer, her eyes searching his. "I think it's never too late to try. But you have to want it, Xander. You have to fight for it." Her words struck a chord, and for the first time in a long time, Xander felt a flicker of hope. But before he could respond, there was a sudden knock at the door. Xander tensed, his instincts kicking in. He motioned for Sarah to stay back as he approached the door cautiously. When he opened it, he found Belle standing there, her expression cold and calculated. Well, Belle said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. If it isn't Salem's favorite bad boy. And Sarah, she added, her tone sharp. Didn't expect to see you here. What do you want, Belle? Xander asked, his patience wearing thin. Belle smiled, though there was no warmth in it. Just a little chat. You see, I've been doing some digging, and it seems you've been up to your old tricks again. Xander's jaw tightened. I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, I think you do, Belle countered, pulling out a folder and placing it on the table. These documents suggest otherwise. Care to explain? Sarah glanced at the folder, her heart sinking as she realized the extent of the trouble Xander might be in. But before she could say anything, Xander grabbed the folder and flipped through its contents. His face darkened as he read. This is a setup, he said, his voice low and dangerous. You've got nothing on me. Belle raised an eyebrow, clearly unfazed. Maybe not yet. But give me time. Or, you could make this easier on yourself and come clean now. Xander's fists clenched, but Sarah placed a hand on his arm, silently urging him to stay calm. Belle, Sarah said, stepping forward, is this really necessary? Xander's trying to turn his life around. Belle's gaze softened slightly as she looked at Sarah. I get that you want to see the best in him. But people don't change overnight, Sarah. And Xander has a long history of proving that. The room fell silent, the weight of Belle's words sinking in. Xander looked at Sarah, his eyes filled with a mixture of guilt and defiance. He wanted to prove her right, to show her that he could be the man she believed he could be. But Belle's presence was a stark reminder that his past would never stop haunting him. As the evening wore on, the tension in Xander's apartment reached a boiling point. Belle's plan to corner him was working, but Sarah's unwavering support threw a wrench in her strategy. The couple's dynamic was a puzzle Belle hadn't anticipated, and it was clear that Sarah's influence on Xander was stronger than she'd realized. You have a choice, Xander, Belle said finally. You can either cooperate with me and try to make amends, or you can keep running and digging yourself into a deeper hole. Xander looked at Sarah, his mind racing. He knew the right thing to do, but doing it would mean confronting parts of himself he'd rather keep buried. It would mean risking everything, including Sarah's faith in him. What do you think I should do? He asked her, his voice barely above a whisper. Sarah's eyes filled with tears as she reached for his hand. I think you should fight. Fight for yourself, for us, for the future you deserve. Xander swallowed hard, his resolve strengthening. He turned to Belle, his chin held high. Fine. I'll cooperate. But don't think for a second that I'm doing this for you. Belle nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. Fair enough. Let's get to work. As the three of them began to untangle the web of lies and deceit, it became clear that the road ahead would be anything but easy. But for the first time in a long time, Xander felt a glimmer of hope. With Sarah by his side, he might just have a shot at redemption. Sarah attempts to convince Xander. He can still win, but Belle has set a trap that the couple cannot escape. In today's Days of Our Lives, Philip receives a tap at the door while putting on his shirt. Kate steps in and asks if that's what he's wearing to court, following which Philip tells her about his lawyer switch. Kate finds it fascinating that he has his exes working for him, including Stephanie and Belle. He ignores her jabs and says he invited her to come over and testify for him today. Oh, I don't think that's a good idea, she informs me. She does not feel comfortable discussing the letter on the stand. Vivian is too much of a loose cannon to keep her mouth closed. Philip pledges that Belle will not inquire about the letter. Kate wishes she hadn't known about the letter, and she's now holding secrets from Roman. She will always cover for him throughout life. Always. However, she is not lying in court. Over at the Brady pub, Sean informs Roman that he is staying and has rejoined the force. Roman happily congratulates him and informs him that both he and Belle have been missed. Sean goes silent, then informs Roman that their marriage is broken and Belle has left town. They sit, and Roman apologizes to Sean. Sean explained that they simply grew apart and decided that time and space were beneficial to their relationship. Roman discusses his divorce with Marlena and how it took time for the wounds to heal, but he is where he is supposed to be. After Roman and Sean are finished, Kate arrives with the news that Belle is Philip's attorney. Roman is astonished. Philip thinks Belle has already left. Roman believes they need to learn to get along, whilst Kate believes Belle should leave town after she's done. Then Roman receives a call from Statesville. Vivian Alamain? What the hell do you want? Dazed Sean glances at Belle skeptically in front of Sweet Bits. Belle and Sean surprise each other in Horton Square by revealing that neither of them will be leaving Salem. They explain why, and Belle begs Sean for a huge favor. She wants him to be a witness now. Brady, meanwhile, returns home to give Belle a special delivery, her divorce papers. Belle appears uncomfortable, but claims it is only a formality. She only worries when she'll see Sean again now that he's leaving for Beau. She then reveals that she'll be staying in town to represent Philip, which surprises Brady. She describes what happened and wants her brother to testify against Xander. But he is unable and unwilling. They put the Sarah accident/attempted murder behind them. Furthermore, he works for Xander, and Philip framed him for murder. Dazed Brady presents a folder to a dubious Belle in the living room. Belle casually says she'll just have to subpoena him, but Brady says it won't work. She needs to find another method to win. Maggie wishes Justin a happy morning as he works at the table in the Kiriakis' mansion. Justin doesn't waste time asking her to testify for Xander today. The judge is unpredictable, and Justin would prefer a character witness familiar with Victor, such as Maggie. She, however, does not want to be in the midst of this. He attempts to persuade Maggie, but she swears Victor never discussed these issues with her. She knows Victor wanted Xander, but Philip is still Victor's son, and she cares about him as well. It's a legal situation, and she has no interest in getting involved. Sarah and Xander awake in bed. He dismisses her concern when she claims he was tossing and turning all night. Today is going to be difficult, and Xander is worried that the court will side with Philip and cost him everything. Yesterday's confidence was a facade. Reality is more frightening. Sarah reminds him that no matter what, he has her and Victoria. This, he claims, is why he wants to help them. His plans aren't working. Philip has a new, apparently excellent lawyer, and the judge is unpredictable. Sarah reassures Xander as best she can, and the two begin kissing. After a fun night in bed, Xander says he feels much better and thanks Sarah for her unwavering love and support. Xander finally gets dressed and walks down, overhearing Maggie's desire to remain impartial. That's great, he gets it. To make matters even better, Sarah walks down and amazes everyone by stating that she no longer needs her cane. Dazed Xander gestures as he talks with Maggie and Justin in the living room. Sarah, Justin, and Xander arrive to the courtroom, and the first two go to buy coffee. Philip enters once Xander is alone. Xander provides Philip the opportunity to abandon the case before degrading himself and stating that this fighting is bad for Maggie. Philip sneers him off and jokes about returning Xander to the gardener if he wins. May Victor's favorite son win. Belle arrives shortly after Xander departs to buy coffee. Philip informs her that Kate will be unable to attend, and Belle confirms that Brady will as well. He asks Belle if she can testify, but she's his lawyer. The other three return, followed shortly by the judge. Belle enters Victor's alleged letter as evidence. She then produces a note from Philip's doctors in Europe stating that he has recovered after faking his own death, which is the only reason Victor did not leave him anything. Then, she summons Sean to the stand. Salem has always been a town of secrets, schemes, and scandalous drama, but today's events might just take the cake. Between courtroom showdowns, clandestine phone calls, and a tense family fallout, this day will leave relationships and reputations hanging by a thread. A courtroom clash brews. The morning begins with Philip preparing for what could be the fight of his life, not just in court but against his cousin Xander for control of Victor Kiriaki's legacy. Shirt half-buttoned, he's interrupted by Kate, who wastes no time commenting on his attire and his decision to bring Belle on board as his lawyer. "It's fascinating, really," Kate quips, a sly smile playing at her lips. "Your exes all lining up to fight your battles." Stephanie. Belle. What's next? Chloe giving a character reference? Philip, clearly unimpressed, brushes off her sarcasm. "I didn't ask them to work for me because of our history. I asked them because they're the best." Still, Kate is hesitant about her role in today's proceedings. The infamous letter, Victor's supposed final words, remains a sticking point. "I'm not getting on the stand to talk about that," Kate asserts. Vivian's a wild card. She'll blow everything up for sport. Philip promises to protect her from any fallout, but Kate isn't convinced. "You know I'd do anything for you, Philip," she says, her voice softening. "But I can't perjure myself. Not even for you." Sean and Belle's crossroads. Over at the Brady pub, Sean catches up with Roman, who's thrilled to hear Sean is rejoining the Salem PD. The mood darkens, though, as Sean reveals that his marriage to Belle is officially over. "We just grew apart," Sean says, forcing a small smile. "Sometimes, time and space are what people need." Roman, ever the optimist, reminds Sean of his own history with Marlena. "It took us a while to find our way back to each other. But we did. You and Belle might just need time." Unbeknownst to Sean, Belle is nearby in Horton Square, bracing for a different kind of confrontation. She runs into Sean, and the air between them is thick with unresolved tension. After exchanging pleasantries, Belle drops a bombshell. "I need a favor, Sean. I need you to testify for Philip." The request lands heavily. Sean's loyalty to family wars with his moral compass. "You're asking me to take sides in something that could blow this family apart," he says, shaking his head. "Philip needs someone to speak the truth about what Victor would have wanted," Belle pleads. "And you're the only one who can do it." Xander's quiet desperation. Meanwhile, upstairs at the Kiriakis' mansion, Sarah and Xander share a rare moment of intimacy. But beneath Xander's bravado lies a deep fear of losing everything. "Yesterday, I acted like I had this in the bag," he confesses to Sarah. "But the truth is, I'm terrified. Philip's got a new hotshot lawyer, and the judge, well, let's just say she's not exactly predictable." Sarah cups his face in her hands, her voice steady. "Listen to me. No matter what happens today, you have me and Victoria. That's all that matters." Her words bring Xander some comfort, and the couple shares a tender kiss. But their bliss is short-lived when Xander overhears Maggie telling Justin that she won't testify for either side. "I just can't do it," Maggie says. Victor loved both Philip and Xander in his own way. "I can't pick a side." Xander's face falls, though he forces a smile. "I understand, Maggie. You have to follow your heart." The courtroom showdown. When the trial begins, tensions run high. Justin, representing Xander, and Belle, fighting for Philip, waste no time trading barbs. Belle introduces Victor's alleged letter, which seems to favor Philip, while Justin counters with a letter of support from Alex, only to have it struck down by the judge. Then, Belle calls Sean to the stand. Sean's testimony is measured but leans in Philip's favor. Uncle Philip was always the one being groomed to take over for Victor. He was the obvious choice, Sean says. But under Justin's cross-examination, Sean admits that Victor never explicitly stated his intentions in writing. Next, Sarah takes the stand. She speaks passionately about Xander's love for Victor and the deep bond they shared. "He named our daughter after Victor," she says, her voice breaking. That's how much he respected and loved him. Belle, however, is relentless. She presses Sarah about Xander's darker past, bringing up his alleged attempts to harm Brady. "Would you lie under oath to protect your husband?" Belle asks, her tone icy. Sarah squares her shoulders. "No. Everything I've said today is the truth." But Belle isn't done yet. She hints at a secret that could unravel everything, leaving Sarah visibly shaken. Secrets and schemes. Outside the courtroom, other players are moving their chess pieces. At the Brady pub, Kate intercepts a call from Vivian and warns her to stay in line. "You better not screw this up," Kate hisses, her voice low. "If you do, it won't just be Philip who pays the price." Over at John and Marlena's, Brady and Maggie reflect on how far they've come. "Sarah's accident was a wake-up call for me," Brady admits. "It made me realize how much I've taken for granted." Maggie nods, her eyes misting. "And I'll always be grateful to you for convincing Kristen to hand over that serum. It gave Sarah her life back." A shocking twist. As the day's proceedings wind down, the judge announces she'll render her decision tomorrow. But before anyone can leave, Belle drops a final bombshell. "I have one last piece of evidence," she says, pulling out an envelope. This is a sworn affidavit from a witness who claims Xander confessed to tampering with Victor's will. The courtroom erupts in chaos. Xander leaps to his feet, his face red with fury. "This is a lie," he shouts. But Belle remains calm, a small smile tugging at her lips. "We'll let the judge decide." As the screen fades to black, Sarah clutches Xander's arm, her eyes wide with fear. "What have you done?" she whispers. This day in Salem will go down as one of the most dramatic in recent memory. With alliances shifting, secrets bubbling to the surface, and relationships hanging in the balance, one thing is certain: the fight for Victor's legacy is far from over.